Radio speaking.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to the second edition of Newslink. First, our top stories. ECOWAS begins pre-election information mission in Côte d'Ivoire ahead of October polls.
Je pense que la plus-value, c'est déjà peut-être travailler à trouver.
I think the most valuable thing is to work to find a consensus, even if it's difficult.
Leadership crisis rock opposition Chello Diallo's UFDG party in Guinea. GSS report reveals over 4.8 million Ghanaians live in urban slums as inequality deepens.
Roughly 4.8 million people are living in slums, a ratio that exceeds the global average of 24.7%, but lower than the sub-Saharan African average of 53.9%.
And Liberian citizens and civil society organizations oppose repeal of Local Government Act. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where ahead of the country's presidential polls scheduled for October 2025, the Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, has commenced its pre-election information mission on Monday. The team made its first visit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, African Integration and Ivorians Abroad. The delegation is led by Professor Theodore Holo, former president of the Constitutional Court of Benin, and includes around 10 members. However, questions remain about the added value of this mission, particularly given President Ouattara's previously stated opposition to what he perceives as foreign interference in Ivorian political affairs. A political analyst, Hervé Seconde, speaks about the subject.
Je pense que la plus-value, c'est déjà peut-être travailler à trouver.
I think the most valuable thing is to work to find a consensus, even if it's difficult. We are at a critical moment in the sub-region. Côte d'Ivoire remains a regional locomotive, both politically and economically. And I think that for this mission, it is to work to ensure that the country preserves its stability. It is also to work to ensure that the country preserves stability. It is also to work to restore its position, because we remember that in 2020, the ECOWAS was accused of not having barricaded the third mandate of President Ouattara.
Bientôt, il y aura des élections. Donc, je pense que tout ce qui se passera en Côte d'Ivoire sera déterminant.
Seconde is a political analyst. We will do have more discussion on this mission of ECOWAS in our guest interview segment. We head now to Guinea, as the main opposition party, Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, UFDG, is facing an uncertain future as it grapples with a deepening leadership crisis. Recall late last week, the Minister of Territorial Administration ordered the party, led by Selouh Diallo, to postpone its upcoming Congress, scheduled for July 6, 2025. The directive requires the UFDG to first reinstate Ousmane Gao Diallo, the current spokesperson for the transitional government, who was expelled from the party in 2022. However, party leader Selouh Diallo has rejected the government's demand. Abdullah Hassan has the details in the following report.
The standoff between Ousmane Gao Diallo and Guinea's main opposition party, the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, UFDG, has persisted for 3 years. Diallo, now spokesperson for the transitional government, was expelled from UFDG leadership in 2022 after aligning himself with the ruling junta, the National Committee of Reconciliation and Development, CNRD. In a court ruling last May, the UFDG led by Selouh Diallo was ordered to reinstate Ousmane Gao Diallo as a condition for holding its upcoming party congress scheduled for July 6. However, the UFDG has refused to adhere to the ministry's directive. party official Selu Kansala Jallo explained the decision.
We see a party taking sides, a cause and effect from the minister who is supposed to be neutral. The administration is going to the point of interfering in the internal functioning of a political party and even taking sides for a movement that has no agreement to the detriment of a movement that has an agreement officially recognized. It's a bad publicity for the government.
At the same time, internal tensions are rising. Within the UFDG reform movement, backed by Usman Gao Jallo, questions are being raised about the transparency and organization of the Congress. Lamarana Petit Jallo, president of the MR UFDG, criticized irregularities in the process.
When the FDG estimates that a decision, either judicial or from the Ministry of Justice, is made, the FDG is victim. It is not a question of Mr. Usman Gawa Gallo or of Mariama Petit Gallo. It is a question of respect for the text.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Territorial Administration has issued a 48-hour ultimatum for compliance with its demand. Despite mounting pressure from the government and internal dissent, the UFDG leadership insists that the party congress will go ahead as planned for July 6, 2025.
That was a report by our Conakry correspondent, Chernafa Ibrahim Abad, and voiced by Abdullah Hassan. Meanwhile, the last minute have been heard in Togo as reactions continue to pour in over the recent demonstrations that took place in the capital Lomé and other parts of the country. The latest response comes from the Conference of Bishops of Togo. In the statement released on Monday, the bishops expressed deep concern over the protests held on June 26, 27 and 28, as well as the act of violence that accompanied them. The demonstrations were marked by calls for the resignation of Foreign Asingbe, who currently serves as president of the Council of Ministers. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
In their statement, the prelates said they had followed the protest of recent days with deep concern. The religious leaders condemned the reported instances of violence and called for calm. Father Emil Segbaji is spokesperson for the Togolese Bishops' Conference.
We vigorously condemn again these unacceptable and unsustainable violence, whatever their origins, their authors and their justification. Such disproportionate use of force to repress a futile, illegal demonstration is simply unacceptable. We invite the authors of these reprehensible acts to be converted.
As several civic organizations mourn the death of 7 people and dozens of others injured, the prelates call for the preservation of human life. They urge all parties to exercise restraint.
We recall here the sacred character of all life and the inalienable dignity of the human person. The banalization of these fundamental principles of all religion, culture, and civilization leads inexorably to chaos. To be tempted to see the truth and to make believe the force is a moral violence that breaks cohesion. We must grasp ourselves by fear of God and by love for our nation.
At the same time, the Bishops' Conference urges the faithful and fellow citizens to continue to pray, I quote, without becoming discouraged, end of quote. It should be noted that at the end of their 139th ordinary session, the bishops firmly condemned all forms of violence wherever they come from and denounced the culture of lies in the country.
Christopher Teacher voiced that report as filed in by our Lomé correspondent Sylvia Wadrago.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, a new report by the Ghana Statistical Service has exposed the harsh reality facing millions of Ghanaians living in urban slums where basic necessities, including water, proper housing and sanitation, remain out of reach. The Slums and Informal Settlement Thematic Report, drawn from the 2021 Population and Housing Census, paints a troubling picture of widening inequalities and deteriorating living conditions in cities across the country. And Accra, Nadide Tete reports.
More than 4.8 million people, representing nearly a third of Ghana's urban population, live in slum conditions, grappling with inadequate housing, poor sanitation, and limited access to essential services. Here is Government Statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu providing details at the launch of the Slums and Informal Settlements thematic report drawn from the 2021 Population and Housing Census.
Roughly 30.8% of urban population, or 4.8 million people, are living in slums, a ratio that exceeds the global average of 24.7%, but lower than the sub-Saharan African average of 53.9%.
The disparities are more severe in the northeast region, where nearly 80% of households are classified as slums. The northern, Savannah, and Oti regions also recorded alarming levels of deprivation, with many communities facing shortages of clean water, durable housing, and overcrowded living spaces. The report also revealed glaring socioeconomic inequalities. Illiteracy rates in slum communities stand at over 30%, more than double that of non-slum areas. Health outcomes are equally concerning, with slum households experiencing significantly higher mortality rates. Lead consultant for the report, Professor Stephen Owusu-Kwanche, argued that the issue transcends regional boundaries and is rooted in systemic service delivery gaps. The Ghana Statistical Service has introduced a more stringent benchmark for defining urban areas, requiring communities to meet basic thresholds for electricity, water, education, and health facilities. Shockingly, only 10% of Ghana's nearly 18,000 localities meet that standard. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu called on both government and private sector actors to prioritize investments in slum upgrading, affordable housing, and basic infrastructure. For WDR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
Let's travel to the Central Sahel region, where Nigeria National Guard announced that it has neutralized a key terrorist leader, Lukuman, in Torodi, a town in the volatile Telaberi region west of Niamey. The operation followed an attack on the local tax office on Sunday. Lukuman, who had been actively sought by Nigerian armed forces for the past 3 years, was a specialist in improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and was allegedly involved in multiple deadly attacks along the Torodi, Makalundi, and Torodi Kobage route near the border with Burkina Faso. A security source speaking on condition of anonymity said Lukuman and his group had orchestrated numerous attacks in the region in recent years, resulting in the death of both civilians and security personnel. He is also accused of involvement in cattle theft. In a statement issued on Monday, the Nigeria National Guard confirmed the recovery of several items from the scene, including 3 AK-47 magazines, a relay, connecting wires, and a mobile phone. In neighboring Mali, the transitional government has revealed the establishment of ONAC, the National Office for Veterans, Military Personnel, and War Victims. The bill establishing this new body was adopted on Monday during a plenary session of the National Transitional Council. ONAC aims to improve the living conditions of retired military personnel and war victims, while also promoting their social and professional reintegration. Initiated by the Minister of Defense, this new law provides for several reforms, including mobilization of retirees as a reserve for the armed forces and security forces, as well as technical training for security forces using the expertise of retirees. Fesino Wadr is the Vice President of the National Defense Council's Commission.
After the militarization of the police and the civil protection, we realized that we needed a harmonization so that this can also be taken into account by the National Office of Foreign Fighters. The National Office of Foreign Fighters is like a legal clinic that takes care of the interests of foreign fighters and war victims, especially their preparation for civilian life.
Fesino Wadr is Vice President of Mali's National Defense Council's Commission. Staying in Mali, the border post of Djibouti, just 2 kilometers from Senegal, was attacked early Tuesday in a coordinated assault by suspected jihadist groups. The Mali military says several towns, including Niono, Kayes, and Djiboli, were hit simultaneously. In Djiboli, police stations, customs offices, and immigration buildings were targeted, with several facilities badly damaged. This marks the closest jihadist attack yet to Senegalese territory, which has so far avoided such incidents. The spy joint patrols between Mali and Senegal launched earlier this year. The July 1 assault signals a dangerous escalation in a skill and coordination near the Senegalese border. No official death toll has been released and no group has claimed responsibility. Former Malian Prime Minister Moussa Mara has renewed calls for stronger cross-border cooperation, warning that criminal groups are exploiting weak points along national borders. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and online at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS begins pre-election information mission in Cote d'Ivoire ahead of October polls. Leadership crisis rocks opposition Cellou Diallo's UFDG party in Guinea. GS's report reveals over 4.8 million Ghanaians live in urban slums as inequality deepens. And still ahead in the news, Liberian citizens and civil society organizations oppose repeal of Local Government Act. We do have a press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org, live on Facebook and YouTube. Now, the Speaker of the Gambia National Assembly, Fabakary Tombong Jatta, has praised the increasing significance of parliamentary diplomacy as a key tool for strengthening cooperation and mutual understanding between Banjul and Dakar. His remarks came following an official visit to Dakar, where he was invited by the Senegalese Parliament to deliver the keynote address at the closing ceremony of the 2024-2025 Ordinary Parliamentary Session on Monday. Speaker Jatta highlighted the importance of parliamentary diplomacy, particularly between Senegal and the Gambia. Sankuli Danko tells us more in this report.
Speaking at the event, Speaker Jatta praised the strong ties between the two neighboring legislatures, noting that such exchanges play a crucial role in deepening democratic values and contributing to the stability and progress of the sub-region.
Our individual prosperity is deeply intertwined with our collective well-being. This deep-seated connection forms the bedrock of our parliamentary diplomacy and informs our every interaction. The National Assembly of the Gambia places immense value on the continuous exchange of insights and experiences with our Senegalese counterparts. Our respective National Assemblies serve as indispensable pillars of democratic governance.
The Gambian speaker emphasized the urgent need for enhanced regional parliamentary collaboration, particularly in addressing the complex political, economic and security challenges facing the ECOWAS region. He expressed optimism that through united legislative efforts, the region can overcome its current difficulties.
In West Africa, our destinies are intertwined. The challenges we face, be it climate change, economic disparities, regional security threats, or youth unemployment, transcend national borders and demand collective action. Similarly, our opportunities for growth, trade, and cultural exchange are amplified through closer collaboration.
Meanwhile, Speaker Fabakary Tombong Jatta also reaffirmed the unwavering commitment of the Gambia's National Assembly to work closely with the Parliament of Senegal and other regional counterparts to advance integration, good governance and sustainable development. The visit marks yet another milestone in the ongoing parliamentary collaboration between Banjul and Dakar, a partnership that continues to grow stronger each year.
Sankuli Janko with that report. Well, we'll take you now to Liberia, where citizens, including civil society organizations and members of the disabled community, are pushing back against a proposed repeal of key provisions within the country's 2018 Local Government Act. Now, on Monday, they submitted a formal petition to the government stressing the critical role of decentralization and participatory governance in sustaining democracy. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
a calling to a coalition of civil society actors, the 2018 Local Government Act of Liberia, which promotes decentralization, participatory governance, and local government, is under threat. Reading the petition on behalf of the group, Comfort Gailey condemned ongoing efforts by lawmakers to amend or repeal Section 2.2 of the Act. This section grants county councils the authority to approve development funds and plans at a local level. The civil society groups argue that removing or weakening this provision undermines years of progress toward inclusive and transparent local governance.
Grounds for our objection: the violation of democratic principles and right-based governance. The Local Government Act is a milestone in strengthening grassroots democracy and recognizing citizens as active right holders, not passive beneficiaries. Removing the role of county councils disregards their constitutional right to participate in decision-making that affect their lives of Liberia's 1986 Constitution, contradicting Liberia's commitment to democratic governance and international human rights standards.
In response, Bon County Administrative Officer Sam Edet assured the citizens that their petition would be formally delivered to the President of Liberia to do the office of the county's superintendent.
I claim your attention, this is why you brought the petition. I can assure you, to whom it concern, it will reach that individual or the president desk, I can assure you. So long I give it to the superintendent, she will make sure to present it to the president.
The citizens' petition comes in the wake of sharp criticism from 4 nationally recognized civil society organizations who jointly opposed Representative Jeremiah Sokan's push in the House of Representatives to author the act. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's remain in Monrovia with Abraham Parker for the newspaper review.
This edition begins with the Independent newspaper with these stories. You give us power, don't undermine it. Bong citizens warn government. President Boakar appoints Justice Wese as new Chief Justice of Liberia. Up next is Front Page Africa newspaper. Charged with bribery, U.S. immigration officer of Liberian descent accused. A little gist of this story says Amara Dukley, 43, a U.S. Army veteran and a fraud detection officer for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, was not authorized to handle the cases he allegedly interfered with. According to the federal prosecutors, he solicited and accepted thousands of dollars from immigrants and their families. Still on Front Page Africa newspaper, merit-based or political payback, Boakar's nomination of Justice Wese as Chief Justice joys mixed reactions. And our next and last stop is the Daily Observer newspaper. Liberia National Police receives major tactical equipment donation. Boakar meets Tobot family ahead of reburial plans. Well, the president of Liberia has engaged family members of William Richard Tobert to plan his reburial. This is coming just a day after Samuel Kanyando was reburied. And with this story that is taking all of the newspapers in Liberia, President Boakar tips Wese for Chief Justice. And yesterday evening, the president of Liberia nominated Justice Yami Kwekwe as Liberia's next Chief Justice, echoing strategic timing and political implications. Well, Justice Yami Wese is currently an Associate Justice on the Supreme Court bench. Well, that does it for this Tuesday's edition of Press Review. Thanks so kindly for listening.
Indeed, many thanks, Abraham Parker there in Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, in this segment of the news, we take you back to Côte d'Ivoire as the Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, has begun its pre-election information mission ahead of the October polls. This mission is part of ECOWAS' effort to support peaceful, credible and transparent elections in the region. The delegation of around 10 members will meet key stakeholders to assess the electoral environment and encourage dialogue. Given Cote d'Ivoire's history of electoral tensions, this mission is seen as a crucial step towards preventing conflict and ensuring stability ahead of the polls. To help us understand the significance of this mission, what it means for Cote d'Ivoire and the wider region, we spoke with Austin Aigbe, the most liaison officer.
I think it is not an Ivorian government decision per se. It is a decision by one individual that everybody knows who is running for a fourth term, who wants to do his own tactical moves to ensure that there is no external actor who follows the electoral process through. Okay. And you recall too, in the last heads of state meeting in Abuja, talking about ECOWAS heads of state, heads of authority meeting in Abuja, Alassane Ouattara was absent. And it was in that meeting a decision was taken, and the commission, ECOWAS commission, was mandated by the heads of state to immediately deploy the fact-finding mission, which is a norm in ECOWAS countries. Every country preparing for elections, there is always an ECOWAS fact-finding mission so that they can report back to the heads of state, as it were. So Ouattara being absent may have been deliberate, that he doesn't want to be part of the decision that would have led to the fact-finding mission going to Cote d'Ivoire. It's almost like obvious. But however, Cote d'Ivoire, not Ouattara, Cote d'Ivoire, is a signatory to protocols and subordinate protocols of ECOWAS. Whether or not it is today Alassane Ouattara, it doesn't really matter. It is a country, unless Ouattara will openly declare that ECOWAS, I do not want to see you in my country. Not until that time, like what happened in Guinea-Bissau. Not until that time, ECOWAS will continue to follow the protocol to which all member states is a signatory and all of that.
Well, Mr. Austin, we are clearly not sure if Ouattara himself will be part of this election. Of course, we know that his party has endorsed him and he has chosen him as the sole candidate. But he is yet to make a comment. Do you see this delay as being tactical in a way?
It could be highly tactical. Apparently, if you recall, Ouattara really wasn't interested in a fourth term. I'm sure from the standpoint I am, looking at Cote d'Ivoire electoral process, political environment, it sounds to me that President Ouattara really does not want to go for a fourth term. However, he is shopping for someone who can protect him, who can deliver for all of the external forces to which he's loyal to. Ouattara's silence is challenging. Election is just a few months away. Yeah. This is July, yeah. August, September, October. Yet you don't have a candidate from a major political party. But I think that President Alassane Ouattara is trying to further wait for his intelligence to get him report on what actually need to be done. So when it is time, it could be September ahead of October. President Ouattara declare candidacy. He can even declare a day before. He can change the constitution, declare a day before, and still win the election landslide.
Indeed, that was Austin Aigbe, the most liaison officer. All right, we do have Augustine Coley joining us for the latest in the sporting world. Augustine.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Imo. So, in a stunning upset at the FIFA Club World Cup, Saudi Arabia's Al Hilal have knocked out reigning European champions Manchester City with a dramatic 4-3 win after extra time in Orlando. City took an early lead through Bernardo Silva, but Al Hilal responded with goals from Marcus Leonardo and Macron. Erling Haaland and Phil Foden tried to keep City alive, each scoring to level the match twice. But in extra time, Leonardo struck again in the 112th minute to seal the historic victory. Al Hilal's goalkeeper Bono was the hero of the night with a string of incredible saves that frustrated City's attack. Al Hilal will meet Fluminense on Friday at Orlando. The Brazilians have beat Inter Milan 2-0 earlier on Monday.
Interesting fixtures there, Augustine. I mean, it's a very big upset. This Saudi club beating Man City, and it goes to show what Ronaldo had been saying, that the clubs, they're actually coming up, and it's just they only need visibility, and once they have that visibility, like what the English Premier League has, I think most people will tune to Saudi Arabia as it is.
And they look forward to this kind of movement. That's when they show themselves.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Augustine Colley, for Sport News. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and appreciation to Mustafa Sek and Umu Daniogo for the technical support. Do keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WDR News, and Facebook West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi.